here. The first big IPO of the year is out of the block for the most part. That is SailPoint. You can see the crowds behind me waiting for that stock to open for the first time. At the desk here with me is SailPoint founder and CEO Mark McClain. Good to see you. The stock hasn't even opened yet. It feels like you should be back there watching the screens, Mark.
I think I could be very helpful, Brian, but they told me better to come over here and do the interview, stay away from the desk.
So it sounds, looking where the stock priced the night before, demand seems strong. So when you're out on that roadshow, I felt as though a lot of people knew your story. You have been public before. You were taken private a couple years ago. What did you hear from investors?
A number of things. We were off the market for about 2.5 years. Very unusual story, Brian. We were talking off camera about, we were owned by a PE firm, Thoma Bravo, before our first IPO in 2017. Ran for 4-ish years, private for these last 2.5 and coming back. But as you said, the market was somewhat familiar with SailPoint. And I think the pleasant thing for all those investors on the roadshow was, wow, we weren't expecting this when you came back. We'd grown very nicely, compounded over 30% the last few years. We'd moved from basically break even to about 15-odd%, 14% non-GAAP profitable. And as you know, what the market seems to be hungry for today is what we call, growth at scale with profitability, right? If you've built a pretty large business, you're able to grow that business and do so profitably. That's kind of the magic combo today. And we were that profile. I think they found that interesting. I'd say the other thing, Brian, in our particular space of identity security, it's called, that landscape's been moving pretty rapidly, and as a lot of folks are familiar with this concept of AI and agents, particularly this idea that these little pieces of technology are going to be running around.
We're all going to be robots, Mark.
We're all going to be. I am actually an avatar. I'm actually an avatar.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, are you?
It fits the investment thesis for your company.
It does. Yes. Bet on avatars. That's what everybody tells me. But I think where we are is people have figured out that, as we like to say, identity is the attack vector of choice, right? What the bad actors are doing more and more is, sure, they're going to try to break through your firewall, but they really want to compromise identity, use that compromised identity to get to data. And our systems basically help enterprises protect against that. So it's viewed as a very high value offering, I think, these days.
So compared to when you went private, what, 2022?
22, that's correct.
What's the biggest change in the company that you have been able to drive out of the eyes of public markets?
It's a great question. I like to, in some ways, focus on the things that didn't change. I like to say, being through the multiple ownership structures we had, we were venture-backed, PE-backed, public, PE-backed, about to go public. The thing I tell our team is what we can control and focus on is how we show up for customers, the products we deliver, the way we get those to market, taking care of those customers as they implement our products and get successful. And I try to get the team focused on that. When we did the first IPO, off cuff one day, I said, look, every second you spend looking at the stock price, you're doing nothing to help the stock price. If you're an employee, stop watching the ticker, do our job, we'll get the stock to go the right place. And so we've always had that mindset. I think the things we did that were probably notable, we did a significant back office IT transformation, the kind of thing that's way easier to do when you're off the market. We shifted our fiscal year end. We shifted some of our spend around the world for lower cost engineering while keeping a lot of it in the US where we're still getting great talent. So there were some moves that could have theoretically been done in the public eye. It was just simpler and faster and easier to do some of those that way.
I talked to a lot of private company CEOs, and they have told me the past few years, we're not coming public because the regulatory backdrop sucks. It's really burdensome. Now that you're about to be a public company, I should mention, stock's still not open. Are you hopeful that the Trump administration rolls back regulations? And how much easier do you think it will be?
Such a good question. I think we learned to just incorporate the regulatory environment as part of the, quote, cost of doing business in the public realm. And as you say, I think we're all watching this unfold with our friend Mr. Musk and Doge and all of that. But there's generally a sense that we're going to move to a less regulatory-oriented administration now. I don't think it's going to all go away, of course, but I think the idea that business will be a little freer to run without as much focus from the regulators on that probably sets up a better backdrop. But it wasn't a huge burden for us. And part of our software deals with compliance and regulatory compliance related to security. So we always say regulation's a double-edged sword for us. We didn't love some of the pain of it as a company in the public eye, but because our customers are subject to regulation, it helps drive some of our business.
Well, do you think that we do not get AI regulation under this administration, and a business like yours can run free and do what you need to do?
I don't think we're going to get the level we might have gotten in a different administration. I doubt we're going to get zero, because I think everyone is aware that there are some risks and concerns here that might need to be be addressed. And we're a very global business. We operate in 60 countries, customers all over the world. Even if the U.S. is a little less oriented in that, we've seen the European Union be pretty focused on things like this in the past. I doubt that's going to change. So we're expecting to have to deal with some level of that. And again, double-edged sword. For us, it'll be a little bit of a burden, but it also creates challenges for our customers, which we can then help them address.
Lastly, first time you went public, listed on New York Stock Exchange. Now you're at the Nasdaq. Why?
It's a great question. We're very big fans of both. I think, when we were a young company, much smaller, coming to public the first time, because our target has always been enterprise customers, we thought there was sort of a credibility with the NYSE. Look, we're a big, it's a real company. As a tech company, high growth tech company, in some ways the Nasdaq seems to be the place where a lot of those kinds of issuances are happening. Felt like the right time. Both firms run really great shops, but this felt like the right decision for this time.
All right, congrats on the re-debut. Is that fair to re-debut?
It's funny, that I in the IPO, initial. I said to the team, why are we calling it an IPO? It's not the initial. I'm confused.
All right, well, good to see you. Congrats on the, I'll call it re-debut. SailPoint founder and CEO Mark McClain waiting for his stock to open for the first time. You can track SailPoint on the Yahoo Finance platform. Ticker symbol what? SAIL?
SAIL.
Simple to remember. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Brian.